What is up, everybody? Mr. Curtis here. Welcome to unit number 7. This is on global conflict. We'll have a bunch of parts to this. We'll go through World War I, in between the wars, and World War II in this unit. The weird thing about this unit is the AP World exam creators, writers, all that stuff don't consider this to be a hugely important unit. So, in these videos, I'm going to kind of give you the basics of what you need to know for the AP exam, and then in class, we'll go into some more details on some of the interesting stuff. Like, for example, you don't need to know any battles for this class, so there's some interesting stuff that goes on, so we'll kind of focus more on that in class, and these videos will kind of be the basic bare bones of what you need. Again, this is the last time period that we're looking at. This is 1900 to 2001. This course kind of breaks and ends prior to the September 11, 2001 attacks in the United States, which really transformed the world, especially the U.S.'s role in the world, and kind of what is called the War on Terror. But we'll focus on that after the exam. We won't focus on that in here in this course. We want to keep everything separate for what you need to know for the AP exam. That's a long way of me saying let's rock and roll and get into this. This is Unit 7.1, Causes of World War I. When World War I started, they didn't call it World War I because they didn't know there was going to be a World War II. But we got to get into a little contextualization of what's going on. So contextualization in Europe, pre-World War I, just a little reminder, we've had a lot of changes in that previous time period of 1750 to 1900. A lot of, like, if you looked at the world in 1750 and then you looked at the world in 1900, people wouldn't recognize the same aspects of society because it changed so significantly. We had the Enlightenment, we have the Industrial Revolution, we have imperialism. These are huge turning points in the world where we're really shifting what we're like before and after. Also, just as a side note to pre-World War I, Europe had been in relative peace for almost 100 years, from really essentially 1850 until 1914 when World War I starts. There's really no major European wars, which is uncharacteristic of Europe going back to the feudal period, even the Roman Empire, and prior. There's been, it's marred by war after war after war, and then we have this relative peace for 100 years. And this is going to change. It's really the largest, it is the largest amount of history, the largest amount of peace in the history of Europe. And this is really what we're looking at for Europe. We got obviously Portugal and Spain, who are not really industrialized at this point. But our main countries, we got the United Kingdom, we have France, we have the German Empire, we have this Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was Austria and the Hungarian Empire, and they merged together. We have our Russian Empire over here. We have our sick man of Europe, the Ottoman Empire here. And then we have all of these new countries that have developed as a result of nationalism. So we have a lot going on here in terms of the players, the pieces, and I want to get into what's going to cause this war, what leads up to this after this 100 years of peace, because how can you have 100 years of peace and then suddenly you go to war? Well, there's 4 main causes. Now, here's the deal. When we talked about imperialism like a month ago, we talked about nerds causing imperialism. Don't get the NERDS acronym confused with the main causes of World War I. So in World War I, there are going to be 4 main causes, M-A-I-N. And for the M, we have militarism. Militarism refers to increasing your military and increasing the production of weapons. Basically, you're building up your military. And essentially what happens is if I don't like my neighbor next door in the room across the next door to where I'm recording this right now, and I increase my military, and he sees that I'm increasing my military and knows that we don't like each other, he can only assume that I'm increasing my military to eventually fight a war, because why else would you increase your military? Then essentially you're looking to possibly go out and conquer people, knowing that we've had 100 years of peace. He in turn will say, I need to increase my military as well, and when he increases his military, I need to make sure I increase mine a little more to feel like I'm being superior. This is the budget, or essentially how much each of these countries are spending on what are called arms. Arms are just weapons. So if you hear arms or the term armaments, that's weapons. And this is in millions of British pounds. So we have our chart goes from 0 to 150, and you can see our color coding down here. Charts like these you can definitely see on the AP exam. We have Germany, Austria, Hungary, Britain, France, all color coded, and you can see what they're spending. Everyone's below 50 million British pounds. In 1890 and still in 1900. And you can see by 1910 we have this rise, and then by 1914 we have this significant, almost doubling, for example, in Germany, their amount of armaments or arms. And you can see an increase in Britain, Russia, France as well as Italy. So all these countries are going up significantly, and that leads to this distrust, militarism. Number two, we're talking about alliances. We have two sides that have secret defensive alliances during World War II, or during World War I. And our two sides are the Allied powers, which are in green here. All right, France, Britain, and Russia. So we have France, Britain, and Russia. And then we have our Central Powers, which are Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. These alliances are supposed to be our secret before World War I. Neither side didn't know necessarily that these were signed. They're both defensive in nature, meaning you're only supposed to declare war if you are invaded. We'll only help you out if someone invades you. We're not going to help you on an offensive or preemptive strike. So, for example, if Germany invades Russia without Russia doing anything, that's not defensive. That's being offensive, and therefore the other two countries won't help out. So these are defensive alliances. But why this leads to World War I is, let's say, for example, hypothetically, Russia declares war on the Austro-Hungarian Empire, then all of these countries are going to come to the Austro-Hungarian Empire's aid, and then we could have these countries joining in to help out and fight with Russia against these other two. So the issue with alliances is once one country gets involved, everyone else is going to be involved as well. The I is for imperialism. There is no real place left to conquer in Africa, in Southeast Asia, or East Asia, or South Asia. The world has essentially been conquered, minus Latin America, and the United States, if you recall, has pretty much said, Europe, stay out of this. Because there's nowhere left to conquer, the Europeans kind of think to themselves, essentially, kind of a simplistic view, but if we want more colonies, we need to conquer the countries that have colonies. So we've kind of run out of places to colonize around the world. But for example, if you are France and you conquer Germany, or if you fight Germany and Germany loses, you think to yourself, you might get access and can take over German colonies here in Southwest Africa and on the Swahili coast. So that's the goal, and that's how you increase your colonies. And the last one is, so we have M, militarism, A, alliances, I, imperialism, N is for nationalism. I know you know what this is, but I'll give you a quick rundown anyway. This is extreme pride in your country, and we see this a lot rising in the late 1800s in Western Europe, where Western European countries think they are superior to the other countries around the world, and the other countries within Europe. And this leads to issues. Also, we have these multi-ethnic empires, these empires that exist in Europe, specifically, coming back to our map here, specifically Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire, that are multi-ethnic, meaning that there are multiple ethnicities or nationalities in this. And these countries, if you remember from the nationalism in the last time period, want their independence. The biggest source of tension in Western Europe, or in Europe at the time, is in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In this empire, there's a lot of areas. I'm going to come back to our big map. Sorry if you're taking notes on this. There's a lot of areas in here in Austria-Hungary, which is in the southern part, who want their independence from Austria-Hungary. These countries have already got it. There's other areas and other groups of people in here who are like, yo, bro, we're not Austrian. We're not Hungarian. Why are we in this empire? We should have our own country. And they're going to demand and start wanting and desiring their independence. This region of the world where this tension exists is called the Balkans. This is the Balkan Peninsula right here, and it's multi-ethnic. There's a lot of mountains there, so people have been separated over time, and this region is going to be the spark. This area is going to be what kind of is going to lead us and spark us into the war, and the spark that leads this militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism is going to be the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He is the next in line to be king of Austria-Hungary. He's the son of the king, or the emperor of Austria-Hungary, and he is going to be assassinated. I hate to give away the ending, but he's going to be assassinated by someone, by a group of people from this area. Come back to our big map. From this area right here in Serbia, and he's assassinated in his own country, and the Austro-Hungarians are furious, and it's going to lead to some issues, and I'll talk more about that part in class of the assassination of this guy, Franz Ferdinand, which is also the name of a band from the 90s and 2000s, I think. But that's what I got. That's the causes: main, militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, assassination of the Archduke, spark, set it off. That's what I got. You got any questions? You know the deal. We're in Unit 7. Write it down. Let me know. I'm out.